Welcome back to the channel. If you've been with me for a while, you know that intro is just a bit different because we're changing things up here at Changing Latitudes. We're going to go ahead and move on to this house behind me. For the bulk of this channel going forward will be about either what's going on within the house or what we're doing in the shop to build what's necessary for the house or what I want for the house. So if you're going to subscribe to this channel, now's the time to do that because we are going to get into some crazy things. Call it extreme. I don't do anything just as basically as an update. And if you've been for the channel, you know that because you've seen me go ahead and build reservoirs that hold 1 million gallons, convert square boxes into lighthouses, and on and on and on, and including an entrance. But it's time now to get into this house some 6 years later after purchasing it. We're starting with the garage. And you'd say that's kind of an odd place to start with when you're going in to remodel a home. But it's not the garage in itself, it's the room above the garage. I'm trying to convert it to true living space. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's been a shit show. I can't believe I'm doing it myself. Here we go. Let's get into the steps of what we started with, which is a blank slate. So obviously there's a 2-car garage here, and I've made the call to go ahead and cut into the right side garage to extend the hallway going up to this room above. If we want to include this room above incorporate it into the bulk of the house, then we're going to have to create a hallway. That hallway had to find its way over my left shoulder there, so let me show you it. Okay, so this pocket right here is about 3 feet wide. So as I step to the left here, you can see that the hallway is revealing. And it does cut into, if I put it right up against the wall here, you can see that I'm gaining just a bit of that into the drive area. The good news is our secondary car is a much smaller, it's a Trailblazer. It's going to fit just fine right past there. But the exciting news, let me show you this hall. We've already had it constructed, but I did go out to a third party to get that done. This window here is replacing the door that used to be down. You can see the cut into the concrete. That door used to be here. There's a man door that went outside. We put a 3x3 window at the end. That's just a temporary window to get us through the winter. And then as we bank to the left here, you can see the staircase. The staircase has been moved to the right or to the north about 1.5 feet. It used to go into the garage. So we actually gained that back into the garage. So because this space to the right of it was just useless. It was just a dirt collector. So this wall going up here, and you can see has now got the staircase. It's a 4-foot staircase all the way to the right, which is great. So now the beams are completely across, opened up. These beams match the bulk of the house, so that's going to be a repeated theme. And we've lifted up. We've taken this area that was not connected to the house. Basically, you had to go through the outside. It was technically storage space. The conversion of this thing into living space, though, does run into a source of drama. Okay, so let's get into some of the things that I've come across so far since going down this road. Remodeling a home is intimidating for any of us. You have to have a vision thing, or at least pay for somebody to provide a vision. But then there's also the 4 basic elements that you're going to run into. Number 1, obviously financing. Today, it is expensive. It's extreme. Number 2, structural plans. Because we're changing the structure of this room, I had to go to an engineer to ensure that the room was constructed correctly. Number 3, the county. And there's more to come in this video on that topic. And number 4, depending on your skill set, support, tools, and all that, is working with contractors. So I'm going to engage with all of those, and I'm going to go ahead and show you right now where we sit. You can see we're in framing. We're just about ready to start insulation. Let me take you through some of the problems I've engaged with converting this storage area to living space. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of the construction challenges, let me back up and talk about the county. So naturally, when you change things within your home, you have a structural change. You need to permit those changes with whatever your locality is. And I'm standing in here between these two studs just to show you how close I was to going to jail. I'm joking. Jokes aside, there was definitely a couple things that I had to remedy with the county. I'm in the margin of a couple items, the entrance, an additional pond, that I thought as long as I had engineered plans, I'll move forward and build the room as if it was permitted. I knew that I was going to have challenges with both of those. One, when we speak about the entrance, I knew that I built the retaining walls that were 4 feet or less, therefore did not need to be permitted. But there was a carve-out caveat. Had those retaining walls not held back the driveway, then I wouldn't need it permitted. But because it was connected to the driveway, even though that driveway was 60 years old, what would look to be just landscaping became a surcharge conversation, thus needed to be permitted. So that was number one. Number two, the pond. I had already permitted, and if you've been with the channel, you've seen my red tag video and everything I did with the reservoir. However, the secondary pond, although located within the sphere of the original permit, was not permitted at the time, and they were unaware of it. So they dinged me a second time. So I figured the county would want to get involved with that question. So those two things sat over the top of my head when I was considering this room build. I knew if the county got involved with this room, they would demand for more. Not all bad as the homeowner, but it would be more, and thus the cost would go up. So I started this project with engineered plans, a commitment from a good contractor to get it done and done right, and off the races I went. Unfortunately, best laid plans don't always get to be followed through because a friendly neighbor went ahead and reported me to the officials. The county, doing their job, sent me a courtesy notice, which simply asked, are you building something above your garage? We noticed you tore out some truss and some insulation and drywall. I do want to stop here and say that I'm not anti the county in the permitting process. As many of you know, the county helps protect you in cases with contractors that are not following designs, making sure your plans are done right, and then obviously down the road of life, the building just doesn't crush your head in or something like that because it was done wrong. So that following Monday, I submitted the permit, I submitted the plans, we went to work. And of course, in the plan review, they kicked back, hey, Mr. Lavoie, I see that you've got this entrance. Mr. Lavoie, I see that you have this pond and you need a site disturbance thing, which I was anticipating, as I said earlier, to come back at me. Even though I knew I was in the margins of both of those activities, I kind of figured they were going to come back at me, and they did. So what was just a landscaping job and an expansion of a reservoir, I had to go down the road and pause there, get those permitted, work on this room getting permitted, and everything had stopped. So for over the course of 2 months, engaging with 2 different engineers, 2 to 3 different planners at the county, I'm at where we're at now. Whether it was caused by the fact that I had started this project without the county involved, this one went deeper and deeper and deeper into challenges. So let's start with the simple first. This garage float on the floor is extreme. So we had to do a cross-sectional build up here. And we had to make sure that this floor was level, even though the base of the concrete was floating upward. Typically not a big deal. Then there's the staircase. Stairs cannot vary more than 3/8 to the top. Said differently, that each step must have the same rise as you go up, with only a variance in the total length of it of 3/8. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if the landing was level. And as you can clearly see in the picture, and I'm not tilting it, that landing is crooked, is out by 3/4.
Did you know everything would stop at that point with the county? They would literally not go any further. I have to correct that floor. So the first step was to make sure that it didn't look like it had any variance of more than 3/8 coming up the stairs. And to do that, the stairs tilt 3/4. Now, truth be told, I could have fixed the floor up there, but as you'll see in a second, I've got bigger problems. Coming up the stairs, I thought I would stop and show you this nice little cut here. This entire wall bowed out. And it was not a problem when these stairs existed over 1.5 feet, because obviously it was 1.5 feet, it didn't bow 1.5 feet out. But when you're trying to put the staircase to the wall, that was a problem. So they had to cut where I showed you and literally jack the wall to the north and get it smooth and flat again. So let's get into this construction above me. If you've removed the ceiling and all the webbing, what's going to hold up the ceiling? Okay, well, you see these big beam here, right? And it makes it seem like that's what it's going to do. It's going to hold up the ceiling. What we had to do was remove the webbing portion that held up the ceiling and leave only the rafters. Then come along and run these joists across from beam to beam, holding up those rafters, tying them into the girth of the big beams coming across. Now, the downside of that is insulation. Now, obviously, insulation is something that had to happen here. It was one of the problems. This room was R11 because it was storage. Once you move into living space, as I've come to learn, you need a minimum in this county of 38 on the ceiling, 30 down below on your floor if your floor is exposed to outside, which your garage is considered such, and your walls need to be 21. And if you know anything about insulation, which I did not to the level I needed to get to R38, you need about a 12-inch space. We only have about 6 inches to work with. For you to have R21 on the walls, you have to have 6-inch 6-box construction. And although that doesn't seem like it needs to be insulated, it does. It needs to be an R30. And in my particular case, I'm going to have to blow into it or rip off all my ceiling that's already there. Our home is a Gabriel roof design, which means that it comes down, kinks, and then goes down to the wall. That created a unique situation for my installation and a challenge point from the county when we asked them to come out for a courtesy visit. As you can see there, there's a wall, and then there's this space beyond the wall, leading to this triangle area that creates an air gap. To remedy that air gap for insulation purposes, you've got to choose one of two paths. One, spray foam that back wall all the way up, all the way back down. Or two, make this a 6-sided construction. What does that mean? Well, think of an exterior wall. You have a wall, then you have the framing box, and then you have drywall. That's 6-sided, a 6-sided box construction. I'm talking as if I knew this. So I had to choose one of those two paths. I decided to go with spray and foaming because here's the challenge with this box construction. Even though the spray in it's going to be a little bit more expensive, this would have required me to sneak in some OSB behind, nail it all in from behind, also fur out these 4-inch walls to be 6-inch walls, then cut a hole into the floor so that the person that put the OSB, probably me, wouldn't be caged in there like a rat. Then because the cavity exists and the airflow, I would have had to vent the roof. So with all those elements, I just figured the simplest route was the best, even though maybe a little bit more expensive. And I'm going to go ahead and spray foam instead of converting that to a 6-box construction. That board is called an LVL. It is 9 inches tall, 1.5 inches wide. That's designed so that the wall doesn't blow out because of the lack of webbing above me and the weight of a potential snow load or even a wind force. These walls could possibly blow out. So it ties every single one of the studs together including the new construction holding up these new larger beams. On my way to the floor, I'm going to pause here real quick and show you that we had to fur out this room. This room above the garage itself is actually 2x6 construction, but this room here was only 2x4 construction. And again, as I spoke to earlier, that meant that I had to fur out these walls so that I could put the insulation of R21 in, because you need a 6-inch cavity. So remember when I was talking about this landing here and this 3/4 dip? Then I also talked about those LVL boards. When you look at the LVL board, it has a nice 3/4 to an inch gap underneath it in the center of the room. This flooring here has a dip, and it starts from one end in the north, dips down, and picks back up as you go to the south end where that window is. I'm going to have to come back, and that's a whole nother video, and remedy that. There's no way to avoid that. I could technically put carpet over it and get away with it and sneak around it, but it would have a spring even in the middle. So I have two problems. One, the county is not going to pass me my final if I don't remedy the stair landing. Again, the staircase right now is at a nice little tilt. That's not going to continue. We're also going to have to fix the landing to fix the staircase, which then fixing the landing means that I got to fix the floor. Because when the inspector comes back to do the installation inspection, he might very well pick up that the staircase has been adjusted, which I have to adjust if I'm going to do the installation correctly as we're coming up behind the stairs. So it's the dominoes, what's first, what's second, what's third. And I think what I need to do here is get my staircase fixed first. The second step is to get the insulation in, and then the third step is to get this floor fixed, such that it includes the landing and make sure that everything is straight, plumb, level. I've done a ton of talking and not a lot of doing. On this channel, I tend to do a lot more doing and less talking. That's going to have to change now that I'm inside the house, because I'm going to want to make sure that I'm describing what I'm up to and going into and what I'm dealing with. This remodel throughout the entire house will be extreme. Thank you for watching to the end. I have so much more to share with you as we go and develop this room and beyond. See you next time.